want to say that the Senate, as you know it, is a Senate of 409 equal Nigerian senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And so for me, out of the 109, 49 of us are members of the minority parties, and I have been picked out of the 49 to lead the minority caucus of the Senate. And so I feel highly honored by the privilege of the support of my colleagues and, of course, the leadership of the 10th Senate. At the moment, I can say that assuming a leadership position in Nigeria today filled with a lot of challenges because of the myriad of problems that confront us today as a nation. The problem of insecurity, the problem of infrastructural decay and deficit, the absence, near absence of social amenities, and above all, the fact that there doesn't seem to be light at the end of the tunnel. And so Nigerians are really, really hurting by what we are doing. If you look at it today, the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar has continued to increase without abating. And of course, inflation is on the spiral rise. And so generally, the scenario is a little scary. It becomes an imperative need for people in positions of leadership to provide answers to these questions, because that is why we are enjoying the mandate of the people. I don't think that the voice of the minority has actually been silent on a few topical issues. Of course, the tendency is for people to regard the minority as opposition, and therefore owe the responsibility of making the noise and confronting every action of government, every policy of government. That has been the tradition. That has been the tradition of our minority relationship with the government. But you must realize that government is government. There is no minority government, there is no majority government. In Nigeria today, whether it is the legislature, the National Assembly comprises of 109 senators and 360 members of the House of Representatives. Elections have come and gone, and so it becomes an issue of governance. And so I think that if we have been doing politics of confrontation, politics of antagonism, and that has not given us results, that has not put food on the table for Nigerians, I think that the need for exploring some alternative arrangements to make the right decisions for the right policies becomes an imperative need. And that is why I am not a student of confrontation. I believe in persuasion. As far as the legislative agenda is concerned, I believe in bipartisanship. And of course, compromise when it becomes necessary. If that can get us the result that Nigerians want, I don't think that standing on the floor of the Senate or the House of Rep all the time, sometimes even throwing stones and cheers at themselves, becomes the option. So, for the time being, I think that coming from where we are, Nigerians should exercise some little patience, especially with the opposition, because there is need for us to chart an appropriate course that will change the direction that the Nigerian government is going. Like I said, there's no gainsaying that Nigerians are hurting today. Even the level of insecurity. The whole family of 6, 7 who can be abducted from their home at the wee hours of the night. And the next thing you hear is the demand for ransom. The next thing you hear is that one has been killed. And then you hear of another family of 3 that have been abducted, all of them wiped out on this event. right here in the capital city of Nigeria, where every security agency in Nigeria, from the army to the civil defense, the fire service, and every other thing, have their headquarters in Abuja, where we have the presence of government in Abuja. We were discussing the adoption of people right here in the Federal Capital Territory. Vis-a-vis the humongous budgets that you talk about. If there is any budget that has not been tampered with, that has never been implemented halfway, but 100% to the budget of our security agencies. And so if you ask me, who will I ask? Why are we not seeing improvements in our security situation? Why has Boko Haram continued to be a recurring desma in Nigeria's life? Why are we having a diversification in the dimension of insecurity, from Boko Haram to kidnapping, from kidnapping to armed banditry, from armed banditry to armed robbery? When you ask oversight, maybe that is also the reason why we are where we are. An oversight. An oversight, you see what the executive sometimes wants you to see. You see what they have been able to do. And then you give instructions and directives as to what should be done. You leave the place. You can sit permanently on the chief of army staff, for instance, to do the needful. You can't sit permanently on the inspector general of police, for instance, to do the needful. But I can tell you, from my experience, that the abracadabra that is going on in our security architecture and implementation of security decisions goes beyond what you and I can see. And I can tell you right here that the major problem in the whole setup is corruption. Corruption is the bane of our society. Assuming 1 billion naira is budgeted for ammunitions, it is approved, it is released. How much can the legislation, through oversight function, ascertain that those number of ammunition have been bought? How much can you do to ascertain that?
Is there no way to?
How much can you do? That's what I'm saying. So you go to the police headquarters, for instance, and then ask for the packets of ammunition that have been bought. Or you go to army headquarters and say, oh, how much ammunition, how many bullets have you purchased with 1 million naira? And so I think that the tendency for people to put the blame on the tables of the legislature is misplaced. It's misplaced. I think that what is required is a holistic overhaul of the system. And who does that? The executive. So it takes a lot of political will. The budget this year is almost twice the budget of last year, with a lot of inadequacies here and there, deficit. And then you want to juxtapose the implementation of the previous year's budget with the provisions of this year's budget. And you discover that the budget of last year, for instance, has been implemented by just 48%. So if you budgeted 16 trillion in 2023, and you have been able, as at December, to implement only 48% of it, and then we come out with a bogus budget of 27 trillion. It makes a whole mockery of governance. And like I said, if it is proven that the allegations of corruption leveled against some ministers are true, and you know the fallout of the allegations is the reawakening consciousness of the antecedents of some of these personnel in the past. And so, who do you blame now? The ministers, National Assembly that gave confirmation, or the presidency that did the nomination? Because in all, what it means is that if these allegations are proven to be true, it means that due diligence was not exercised in the nomination of these persons, especially by a government that has vowed to fight corruption to its heel. I say, who do you blame? The person who confirmed? The person who nominated? Because if due diligence was not done here, and I can tell you, the dynamics are not that simple. Because if a minister is nominated, presented to the Senate with very beautiful CV, you can only see the CV. And then you have a limited time to confirm. And then you ask questions of your character, of your experience in your previous areas of engagement. Of course, beautiful questions, beautiful answers are given. And so on the face of the CV, very beautiful PhD professor and the rest of them that is presented, on the face of the beautiful answers that have been given, how did you leave your previous area of employment? Retirement. End of tenure. End of story. And then you go ahead to confirm. And so, like you rightly pointed out, it means that from the person that did the nomination to the person that did the confirmation, and with what is unfolding, we are all guilty of some level of lack of due diligence. And that's what you put in the public domain. But the law is for Senate to confirm. And definitely there are two different things entirely. I agree with you that a hurried confirmation of nominees certainly gives room for some of the inadequacies that we are discovering now. But again, these things are done according to the rules. And in all cases, the ruling party determines the rules. Do we screen today? Or do you give us for the next 1 week or 1 month to do? Or do we do it by the committee system? Or do we do it by committee of the whole? All of these things are determined by the people at the helm of affairs. And of course, that does not stop you from digging into the background of these persons. But like you rightly noticed, there's limited time, the documents are presented to you, and there is no art to find the man's construction on the face. And so, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. But at the end of the day, when results like this, like I said, if proven, turn up, then on hindsight, you will now begin to say, I would have done it differently. If you have watched the proceedings of the National Assembly, the dynamics at play aren't that simple. Don't forget the power of the gavel. Don't forget the fact that the presiding officer determines who speaks and who doesn't speak. Unless you go into a dog fight, that is a rule. You speak when you are permitted to speak, or when you are given the permission, or the privilege, or the chance to speak. And there is this language in the Senate. The presiding officer can simply tell you that his eye no catch you. If his eye no catch you, he won't ask you to speak. If you don't speak, what you are asking us to do, you can't do. Because you can't just stand up in the Senate and begin to shout. You risk even being expelled or misdemeanor, the dominion. And so, from outside, it is very easy to conclude that you should have done this, you have this agenda. There's no doubt that every political party representative in the National Assembly at whatever level of government definitely had an agenda. We have. But you also want to look for the platform to execute the agenda. And in the Senate, like I said, you owe the responsibility of pointing out what is wrong, of providing an alternative to what is wrong to be right. But you require cooperation. You require collaboration. You require understanding of the ruling party. And so, if you put all of them together, you begin to ask for God's wisdom to pick the best mix that can best achieve the result. Only recently, for instance, on the issues that confronted us, on the Rivers State situation, the Ministerial caucus met and issued a statement. Because it was not an issue for us to discuss in the Senate. And so we had to have a meeting, articulate our position, and this office issued a statement on the mandate of the caucus. And as time unfolds, as things move on, we will continue to voice our discontent. Like you said, it's correct. If we are not allowed to speak in the Senate, or you don't have the privilege of speaking in the Senate or the floor of the Senate, of course, there are other avenues of ventilating your grievances or your opinions to let Nigerians know that yes, we exist. And this is exactly what we will continue to do. And so I only plea at the moment, knowing now that our major affront moving forward is the lack of proper implementation of the budget. Let's give it to Mr. President. He wants to reduce inflation. He wants to plug all the loopholes or the leakages in our economy. He wants to grow the economy. He wants to emphasize grassroots development and the rest of it. Fine. All these things, beautiful ideas, can only be realized if the budget is faithfully and comprehensively implemented. And so, this is the first budget of this administration. And I am of the opinion of the school that, well, they said it will get very bad to get very good. We are watching. Nigerians are watching. Members of the minority parties are also watching, because the picture that is before us is very scary. And like I said, Naira has 1,300 exchange, inflation at 38%, and unemployment going down to 40%. I think these are issues that should worry any responsible government. And it is my hope that the veteran that is the president of this country now, who incidentally was a senator, should be able to muster the necessary political courage and will to lead Nigeria out of the woods. If not, I'm sorry, the direction we are going can only lead to a collapse of our system.